This is the reason we are here, because I feel like you've been extra controlling. I'm
Okay,
here to
then
enjoy.
go enjoy.
Like this.
Bye.
Jenny gave up absolutely everything for the ultimate fairy tale, fighting off conservative family members, hiding in secret apartments, and draining her life savings just to be with the man she loved. We all watched this epic 90-day fiancé romance unfold and cheered when she and Sumit finally tied the knot against all odds. But what if the ultimate love story was actually the ultimate financial trap? I just came across a crazy video on TikTok that completely changes everything we thought we knew about this couple. Reports are suddenly claiming that Sumit has issued a brutal, heartless ultimatum to Jenny, and it involves a staggering amount of money. Imagine sacrificing your entire life, your home, and your family, only to be told you might be thrown out on the street if you don't magically cough up $30,000. Before we dive into this massive reality TV bombshell and uncover what fans are saying is really happening behind closed doors in India, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our deep dives into reality drama. Now, let's get straight into how a hard-fought marriage supposedly turned into a brutal financial shakedown. If you've been scrolling through social media lately, you might have caught wind of some intense rumors circulating about Sumit and Jenny. A recent leak from an insider source on Instagram suggests that the couple's happily ever after has hit a massive, terrifying roadblock. Rumors suggest that Sumit's new coffee shop business is totally tanking. We all know how much pride he put into starting something of his own, trying to prove he could be a solid provider. But the buzz online is that the business is bleeding money, and Sumit is desperately looking for a bailout. Instead of taking out a business loan or finding an outside investor, reports claim he turned to the one person who has already given him everything. It's been said that during a massive fight, Sumit demanded $30,000 from Jenny to save his failing business. That is roughly 35 lakh rupees, a massive sum of money for anyone, let alone an American retiree living abroad. The terrible irony here is that Jenny doesn't have it. Fans have pointed out for years that Jenny drained her retirement savings just to afford her countless trips to India, her visa runs, and keeping their lives afloat while Sumit figured things out. She is quite literally tapped out. The very savings she spent to build a life with him are now the exact reason she can't meet his alleged demands. It's a terrifying trap. She gave up her American safety net to be with him in India, and now the lack of that safety net is being used against her. But that wasn't even the most shocking part of the rumor. What really has fans up in arms is the credibility crisis this creates for Sumit. For years, we watched him play the role of the incredibly devoted partner. He was the Romeo of reality television, the guy who stood up to his traditional parents, cried on camera about his love for this older American woman, and fought tooth and nail to make her his wife. Viewers bought into his narrative because he seemed genuine in his defiance of cultural norms. But this new rumor is tearing his credibility to shreds online. Fans are actively debating in comment sections and on forums. Was this all a long con? If you truly love someone enough to risk being disowned by your own mother, how do you suddenly turn around and hold your wife financially hostage? There is a massive contradiction between the romantic hero he played on our screens and the man allegedly demanding 30 grand just to stay married. People are speculating that perhaps Sumit never really grasped the reality of Jenny's financial situation. Or worse, that he always assumed she had a secret American nest egg he could tap into whenever things got rough. The double bind here is devastating. If Sumit stays with her despite the failing business, he faces financial ruin. But if he pushes this ultimatum, he exposes himself as a complete opportunist, destroying the entire foundation of the love story that made them famous in the first place. And the stakes of this situation are escalating faster than anyone could have predicted. We aren't just talking about a reality TV couple having a dramatic argument for the cameras. We are talking about real-world, life-altering consequences. Rumors suggest that when Jenny broke down and confessed that she had absolutely no money left to give him, Sumit didn't offer a shoulder to cry on. Instead, reports claim he looked her dead in the eye and told her that if she couldn't manage to get the money, she needed to pack her bags and go back to the USA immediately. He allegedly threatened her with a divorce right then and there. Let that sink in for a moment. A divorce wouldn't just mean a broken heart for Jenny, it would mean a total loss of her legal right to live in India. She would be deported back to America in her late 60s or early 70s with zero retirement savings, no home, and having to completely start over from scratch at an age where she should be relaxing. The financial and personal ruin she is facing is staggering. Fans are pointing out that Sumit's professional failures are now becoming a weapon of mass destruction for Jenny's entire existence. The fact that a failing coffee shop could trigger the end of a marriage that survived so many international hurdles is mind-blowing. It shows just how fragile their situation really was behind the polished reality TV edits. People are starting to wonder how much of their daily life was actually hanging by a very thin financial thread this entire time. And what supposedly happened during that late-night argument reveals an even darker side to this story. According to a viral deep dive I found on TikTok, the details of this explosive late-night confrontation serve as the ultimate knockout blow to their supposed fairy tale romance. The reports claim that the tension had been building for weeks as Sumit's coffee shop continued to hemorrhage money, but everything finally reached a boiling point on one specific, devastating evening. Sumit allegedly came home completely frantic after reviewing his mounting business debts. Instead of sitting down with his wife to figure out a mutual plan, the rumors suggest he immediately went on the offensive, cornering Jenny in their living room. He didn't ask for her help, he demanded it. When he threw down the astronomical figure of $30,000, Jenny was completely blindsided. The source claims that Jenny immediately broke down, crying uncontrollably as she desperately tried to reason with him. She allegedly reminded him, through tears, that every single penny of her hard-earned retirement savings was already gone, swallowed up by years of supporting their shared life, funding her endless visa runs, and keeping a roof over their heads before they were finally legally married. She had nothing left to give. But instead of showing an ounce of empathy for the woman who sacrificed her entire golden years for him, Sumit supposedly snapped. The leaked account states that he delivered a chilling ultimatum, looking her dead in the eyes and stating that if she couldn't manage to pull this money together, she had no business staying in India. He explicitly threatened her with divorce, telling her to pack her bags and get on a plane back to the USA the very next day. The sheer cruelty of threatening to legally abandon and deport your elderly wife over a failing coffee shop is something straight out of a nightmare, and it completely shatters the illusion of their happy home. But if you actually take a step back and look at his history on the show, this sudden, brutal ultimatum might not be as out of character as it initially seems. Longtime viewers of the franchise have started connecting the dots on social media, pointing out a deeply ingrained behavioral flaw that Sumit has displayed from the very beginning. Whenever things get incredibly tough, his default setting is self-preservation at the absolute expense of everyone around him. Let's not forget how this entire relationship started. He originally catfished Jenny under the fake identity of Michael Jones, entirely avoiding the reality of who he was until he was basically forced to come clean. Then there was the massive, jaw-dropping revelation that he was secretly married to another woman while actively stringing Jenny along, allowing her to move halfway across the world into a situation that was completely built on a foundation of lies. For years, he dodged, delayed, and manipulated both Jenny and his traditional Indian parents, refusing to take true accountability for his actions, until he was backed into a corner by reality TV producers and the threat of Jenny actually leaving. This new rumor about the $30,000 demand perfectly aligns with his historical pattern of relying on others to bail him out of his own messes. He has always expected Jenny to absorb the emotional and financial shockwaves of his poor decisions. Fans are arguing that Sumit never really learned how to be a responsible adult or an equal partner because he's always used manipulation to get out of trouble. Now that his business is supposedly failing, his instinct isn't to put his head down and work harder. His instinct is to panic, find a scapegoat, and squeeze the closest person to him for a miraculous bailout. It's a fascinating, albeit dark, character study of a man who plays the helpless romantic when it suits him, but ruthlessly protects his own interests the second the fantasy crumbles. What makes this entire leaked scenario even more infuriating for the fans analyzing this online is how Sumit is allegedly trying to justify his impossible demands. Reports claim that during this massive fight, Sumit attempted to play the ultimate victim, trying to use a failed emotional appeal to guilt-trip Jenny into finding the money. He supposedly blamed the local economy, the location of his shop, and a lack of local support for his failing business, refusing to admit that maybe his own lack of business acumen was the real issue. The rumor mill suggests he tried to spin the narrative, telling Jenny that he was only stressing over this business because he wanted to provide a good life for them, trying to make her feel guilty for not supporting his grand vision. But social media users are seeing right through this inauthentic behavior. It is incredibly manipulative to claim you are building a future for your wife while simultaneously threatening to divorce and deport her if she doesn't fund it. His emotional appeal falls completely flat because it is so glaringly hypocritical. He is completely ignoring the reality of Jenny's tears and the mountain of sacrifices she has already laid at his feet. When Jenny cried about having no retirement funds left, a genuinely loving husband would have comforted her and promised to figure out a plan B that didn't involve destroying their marriage. Instead, Sumit's alleged reaction shows a terrifying lack of emotional depth. He is so consumed by his own financial panic and the bruising of his own ego over a failing business that he is completely disconnected from his wife's humanity. Fans are pointing out that this behavior proves his love is entirely conditional. As long as Jenny was a source of support, a willing participant in his dramatic rebellion against his parents, and a financial safety net, he played the part of the doting husband. But the very second that well dried up, the mask allegedly slipped. The inauthenticity of his romantic persona has never been more obvious, and it's leading to a massive shift in how the audience views their entire history together. And the deeper implications of this argument expose a horrifying reality about Jenny's current situation in India. The thematic hypocrisy of this entire situation is what truly makes it so difficult to stomach. For years, the core moral of Sumit and Jenny's highly publicized story was that love conquers absolutely everything. They built their entire brand on the idea that a massive age gap and seemingly insurmountable cultural differences meant nothing in the face of true soulmates. But if the rumors circulating on TikTok are accurate, that exact same age and cultural gap is now being brutally weaponized against Jenny. Sumit is a much younger man who still has decades ahead of him to rebuild his life, start new businesses, or even find a new partner if he chooses. Jenny, on the other hand, sacrificed the most crucial, vulnerable years of her retirement to validate his rebellion against his family. The harsh reality that fans are pointing out is that the unconditional love they preached was seemingly a facade for a highly transactional relationship. By allegedly demanding this massive sum of money and threatening her with divorce, Sumit is exploiting the very power imbalance he previously swore didn't matter. The cultural gap he promised to bridge for her has suddenly become a steep cliff he is willing to push her off of. It proves a massive thematic hypocrisy. The man who claimed age was just a number is now allegedly treating his older wife like a broken ATM, entirely disregarding the fragile reality of her age and financial status. This brutal standoff brings us to the terrifying reality check of Jenny's total isolation. When you strip away the reality television cameras, the quirky editing, and the polished Instagram posts, what you are left with is an incredibly bleak picture. Rumors suggest that in the aftermath of this explosive fight, Jenny has come to the chilling realization that she has absolutely zero safety net in a completely foreign country. She is thousands of miles away from her daughters and her friends in the United States. She doesn't possess the fluency in the local language or the cultural navigation skills to independently handle a sudden divorce or a complex legal battle in India. Her entire legal right to even exist in the country is tethered completely to her marriage to Sumit. If he follows through on this alleged threat to file for divorce, her visa status would instantly be in jeopardy, leaving her completely at the mercy of a government and a legal system she doesn't understand. She is geographically, financially, and emotionally marooned. Social media commentators are horrified by this profound level of isolation. Jenny trusted Sumit to be her ultimate protector in a place where she had absolutely no one else, and the reports claim that her protector is now the one forcing her hand. It's a sobering look at the dark side of giving up your entire life for a reality TV romance. She burned every bridge back home to build a life in India, only to realize she doesn't even hold the keys to the front door. Which brings us to the ultimate point of no return for this couple. The final standoff has been set, and there is no easy way out. If these viral social media leaks are true, Jenny is faced with an impossible choice. Does she swallow her pride, frantically call her family in America, and beg them to help her raise $30,000 just to appease a husband who might inevitably demand more when his next venture fails? Or does she finally wake up, recognize the alleged toxicity of this marriage, and pack her bags to return to the USA with absolutely nothing to her name, starting completely over at retirement age? The story that started as an epic, boundary-breaking romance has seemingly morphed into a desperate tale of survival and financial turmoil. We are watching the potential collapse of one of the most famous couples in franchise history, and it forces us all to ask a very uncomfortable question. When you sacrifice everything for love, what happens when love decides it wants a refund? I want to know exactly what you guys think about this massive bombshell. Do you believe the reports that Sumit is showing his true colors, or is the intense pressure of a failing business just pushing him to the breaking point? Should Jenny find a way to save the marriage, or is it time for her to cut her losses and run back to America? Drop your theories in the comments below because I read every single one. And if you want to stay on top of all the craziest reality TV secrets, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.